Hello and welcome to the Fenland Chat Hour. I'm producer Dave and we have Amanda Carlin.
Hello, producer Dave.
Hello, Amanda. Welcome to another show.
Thank you.
Number 2. So the first one went, well, it was quite positive. We did a pilot last week and that seems to have gone, seems to be quite well received. We got lots of response to it, so that was good.
Yes, it was. I was surprised because clearly more than 5 people listened to us.
Well, that's good. We've exceeded our initial expectations, so that's.
Yes, we have.
Right. Well, just who are we? What we're doing? Why we're doing this? We did an explainer on the last one, but the purpose of this is we both had a meeting, and we realised that that not a lot of information is being given out to the Fenland area. It has its own specific needs and difficulties and problems in itself. It's a very rural area to start with, so it has a lot of rural issues and a lot of rural isolation issues. So that compounded with social isolation as well, we realised that there is definitely a need here to provide information and just a lifeline and just another voice, a local voice, as opposed to like a government voice or a London voice as to what's going on. And it can be quite overwhelming listening to Sky News and BBC News, and it can be quite either overwhelming or quite depressing when just sort of being submerged in that kind of news. So we're just trying to do something a little bit light-hearted, a little bit more information that's specific to here, and that's the idea. Amanda, just point out that Amanda is in Wimbledon.
Yes, hello from Wimbledon.
Big up the Wimbo posse.
Yay!
And I'm based in Chatteris, so both in the centre of Fenland, and we've been here both been in the area for a while, so we know most of the places and we know most of the people and the businesses that are important to the Fenland area. Some local news updates. Something that came up was police are now looking at stopping drivers, so that's something to be aware of. They've started in Wisbeach area, part of the trying to encourage people to stay home and not making unnecessary trips to out and about. So they are randomly stopping people and just finding out why. So just be prepared if you do see police vehicles at the side of the roads to stop and let them know what and why you're out and about. But I can understand that's going to expand further down here as well, further down into the rest of Fenland as well. So just be prepared for that. We mentioned FACT last week. They're an organisation that are delivering. They've changed their process from transporting people now to delivering care packages, food packages. I understand. Food
packages, library runs, and medication.
And I believe they're having, because it's been so successful, but certainly they're kind of overwhelmed with the response that they've had, that they're now having to step up and expand their involvement to try and cater with the level of response that they've had over the last few days. So that's good. So you can find out all information on what they provide on their website and their Facebook page as well. There is also a letter supposed to be coming out from the government. I think there's about 20 million letters that have been issued, so in the next few days you should hear something from the government as to what's happening and what to do, and hopefully lots of answers, a lot more details as to what's going on. That's that. So we're going to do some late... we're going to do some... So I'll just start again. We're just going to do some current stats. You know, it can be a bit grim, but I thought, well, we'll do them each show, and just to give a perspective of where we are and where we're at, and how it's affecting the world. So Worldwide, we've got three quarters of a million cases of COVID-19 and 34,000 deaths worldwide. In the UK alone, we've got, as of yesterday, we've got 20,000 or nearly 20,000 cases reported, and 1,200 deaths, sadly, so far. But at the rate, it's probably going to be another 200 plus today as well. So it's just worrying. I mean, these numbers, they are doubling every three to 4 days. I mean, I just think back on Friday, there was just over 700 people had died when we did the figures then, and it's now going to be about 1,400. So it three days and it's doubled. So by Thursday we're probably looking at 2,000 to 3,000 people, and that's quite sobering. That it is quite. I mean, it is a plague. I mean, people are saying that it's paralleled now with the bubonic plague and the Black Death, and it's just it is scary. So, but yeah, that's the details, the stats out the way, and we'll hopefully now move on to something a little bit lighter. How are you anyway? What's been in your world? How's your weekend been?
How's my weekend been? Well, we had the clocks go forward, and thankfully Doris reminded us all about the clocks going forward. So we started off British summertime with snow very early in the morning, and it was very cold yesterday, wasn't it?
Yes, I had a report on my phone to say it was snowing.
It was. It did very early in the morning. Now I know this because my ears are blocked up, so I cannot go to the surgery at the moment to get them shringed. And the things that I can hear are extraordinary. The things I can't hear are everyday noises. But I could really hear the snow as it was coming down. So I thought, oh, the house is falling apart, because it was a really strange noise. And I went to have a look. Oh my goodness, it was really, really coming down. It looked more like hailstones, actually. And that might have been why I could hear them. But yes, I thought to myself, oh, goodness me. I really feel for rough sleepers right now, because it's just gone on and on and on, hasn't it, this bad weather. The councils are supposed to be housing everybody now. They have a responsibility to do it, don't they? The government's told them. So hopefully they'll be able to find somewhere for everybody to go to help keep them safe. So, David, I went to do my shopping, and I went to Sainsbury's, and I checked the clock before I went, and I thought I'd got an extra hour because the clocks hadn't been changed.
Yeah.
So,
oh dear.
I had 9 minutes to do a week's shopping, but I managed.
Yes, I've been caught out by the clocks going forward. I did miss my breakfast once.
Oh, now that's terrible.
Because the food place shut at 9 o'clock, and we got there at 9:30 when we thought it was 8:30. So yeah, that was. That's a sobering thought, especially when you've been drinking out the night before and you're really hungry.
Oh yes.
But that was years ago, many years ago. And now iPhones and mobile phones and stuff, they change the phones for the clock automatically, which
is helpful.
It is, yeah. But yes, I went out on Saturday and I did my first shopping, my first Corona shop. It was interesting. I was actually really surprised and pleased at how well Chatteris has coped. I know they had issues to start with. They had there were a few antisocial issues, like a lot of places, but they seem to have got the grip of it, got to grip with the actual concept of it, and that's people and the businesses as well. the socialization was handled very well. The markings of queuing up was all in place. Only so many people were in the shop at the time. I don't know if that's for every shop, but certainly the ones that I went in, European-based supermarket, they seemed to have their act together, and they had screens on the checkouts to protect the cashiers and stuff, and it was quite relaxed inside. There was lots of stuff in there. People were quite pleasant, quite sociable. Everyone kept the distance, but nobody was in a hurry. There was no stress. There was no anxiety. There was no panicking. So, it was quite. Once you were actually in, it was actually quite a pleasant experience.
Oh, that sounds good.
So I just hope that can be replicated around the rest of the towns. And
yes, that would be good.
So that was pretty much my weekend, was just trying to find. I was being the food provider for a change. The hunter-gatherer.
Hunter-gatherer, yes.
With all these things going on, I think the most important thing, the most important person that we need to ask about what's going on is our lovely Doris, and ask, what would Doris do?
What would Doris do? Well, Doris is saying today, she sent a message and she said, please could people put post-it notes on their bins to say thank you to the bin men. She thinks that's very important, and she would like to know if listeners have got any other people they think should be thanked. And she would like to point out that Fenland Police received some cookies. This was the March police station, from a young boy called Stanley, to say thank you for all the help they're giving people during the pandemic and every day as well.
No, that's brilliant.
Isn't it? It's really, really good. And Doris would like people to ask her questions. We have had some questions asked of Doris today. One is, what would Doris do if her oven broke down?
So what would she do?
Well, what Doris would do is use her slow cooker, and she loves using her slow cooker. And she does use it like an ordinary oven. She bakes cakes in it, and she bakes potatoes and stews and all sorts. So maybe we can get some recipes from Doris on how to use a slow cooker.
That would be good.
It would, wouldn't it? And Julie Mellish has asked, how does Doris cope now that she's become a legend? Well, she
has grown in notoriety the last few days, hasn't she?
She has, absolutely. Well, we will have to ask her. I haven't got an answer on that at the moment, but we also had calls to interview Doris. Now, Doris is a lovely, kind and humble person, so she doesn't actually want to be interviewed, but she did say please ask questions via ourselves, and we can pass them on to Gail, who will ask Doris what the answers are. She's very happy to do that, but she isn't ready to be interviewed at this point in time. But I do think that there's a call for Doris to be interviewed.
Well, that's it. We could do a pre-recorded phone call. It doesn't have to be a live chat. We can do it. But yeah, we can always send her questions. We can send her a question of the day from our audience.
Yes.
Like the one about the oven, if she's happy to answer these questions. Yeah, she
seems very happy at this point in time.
Good. So that's it. That is what would Doris do, and that's a hashtag to look out for as well. If you want to give you a supply, you can message directly on the Wimbledon Facebook page, or any of the places where you see the links to the videos. You can leave messages there, or on Twitter as well. We will set up some kind of more direct means of connection and comms as well as we get set up. But we'll leave a list of all means of getting in touch with us, the show, and Doris as well at the end. So stay tuned for that. We have had our first interview from a local, Fenland local, who has his own business. His name is Richard Savage, or Rick to many of his friends and followers. He has his own studio called Savage Studio in Chatteris. He's been an artist all his life, but he's been based here. He's had his studios for about 15 years. So we did a telephone interview with him this morning, just about who he is, a bit about his background, what he's done, art specifically in the Fenland area, and he's offered some ideas and support. He's offered some suggestions for how to start getting involved in art and painting and artwork during the times when people are looking for other things or new things to try. So over to you, Rick. Yes, we have our next guest on the telephone. He is Richard Savage, but locally known as Rick. He's the owner of Savage Galleries. Is that Savage Studios? Savage Studios in Chatteris, and has been for many years. He's quite diverse in his activities, but predominantly art is his main passion and main subject. So, Rick, tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for inviting me onto the show. I have been an artist, as a saleable artist for about 25, maybe getting on for 30 years now. There really never was a time when I wasn't drawing and painting. My mum said that I was drawing before I could actually write my name or anything. I was starting to doodle and sketch things out as a very young child. And it was just my passion through school. And I saw no reason to stop making art sort of beyond school.
That's quite good. Sorry. So you actually got encouraged by your parents to follow.
Very much so.
I mean, that's brilliant. That is.
Yeah, no, I mean, my father was very encouraging with art. He was a fair draftsman himself. He was an architect, and he gave me a slice of his passion for art.
You were talking about being your family giving you a push into art. So I suppose tell us about how you went about sort of making that leap to actually becoming a full-time artist and setting up your own studios.
Well, I'm not sure leap is quite the way. I mean, it's something I've always done. I suppose the incentive into setting up the studio was a friend of mine asked me to do a piece of artwork for them, and which I did. Very happy to do. And my friend said, what you really need to do is to sell these. You want to sell prints rather than the originals, and suggested that I put my work on eBay. And I had a very interesting year selling prints of my work on eBay. The terms and conditions of eBay changed, which meant that my work was it turned into a kind of a car boot sale rather than a place where you can sell artwork. Yeah. And during that time, I opened my studio here, which would be back in something like 2003.
Okay, so it's been quite a while then.
Yeah. And it seemed a logical thing from opening a studio, and it's really my workspace. But it seemed such a nice big workspace just to keep it to myself. So it was very shortly after then I started to teach from the studio, which is something I've been doing since about 2003.
Do you find that having your own studio sort of gives you your own ideas as well, because it gives you that sort of flexibility?
It allows me to make a mess that doesn't, where my wife doesn't shout at me.
Yeah, I suppose it does help. It's not in the living room or in the kitchen, or
Yeah, I have a very good friend who is desperately in need of a studio, and we constantly talk about the pros and cons of a studio. But unless it's a big piece, I would rather have it on my lap, watching TV in the living room, than in my studio. But some of the pieces get a bit big, so my wife quite rightly objects to me trailing the big stuff into there. But I do a lot of sketching and stuff. So if you have an interest in art, I don't think you necessarily need the studio environment. Though a lot of people set out those really nice garden, I don't know what you call them. I'm going to say garden shed, but I don't really mean a garden shed.
Oh, like summer houses where you've converted.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I've got several friends who've got their art studios in the equivalent of summer houses. I mean, some are like small porter cabins.
Yeah, they are. They are really quite big, aren't they?
Yeah. And it's, a studio is just a fancy name for a place where you do your work.
Yes, it is, yes.
And
and your wife doesn't get in the way.
Don't tell her. But yeah, no, so the leap was more of an amble rather than a leap.
Right.
In fact, most of my art career has been a bit of an amble rather than making a deliberate decision to go into doing one thing. People ask me to do things, and that's just led me into new areas. I mean, my work sort of kind of spans from wildlife art, aviation art. I do quite a lot of figurative work, though I wouldn't consider that I'm a portrait artist. Though I have done one or two, but that's not really where my sort of main heart is.
Yeah.
But I do a lot of kids stuff as well. I love doing kids illustrations.
Yeah, because you're quite heavily into the myth and magics, weren't you? Myth and is it?
Oh yeah.
Because you did all that with a lot of work with the kids in Chatteris and the Fens.
Yeah, very much so. That was a great project. They're looking to relaunch that later this year. There was all sorts of projects that were lined up with the Myth and Memory book.
Oh, Myth and Memory, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, until obviously we have the current situation.
Yeah.
So, it was a lot of things. Hopefully, have just been put on hold, but we were about to relaunch and do some new events and bits and pieces within Chatteris.
Yeah, certainly. It was quite popular at the time, so yeah, it'd be good if we do.
We sold really
Myth
well
and Memories Part 2.
Yes, indeed.
Well, talking about sort of that's quite a nice leap into the next question, which is Fenland art. I mean, art has its own sections anyway, but doing art in the Fenland, do you find that has its own sort of local dialect or local colloquialisms itself?
It certainly has its own quirky nature. With art, generally, there are things that work in other places that don't seem to work here as well. But on my hand on my heart, I have no real ideas why. Like yourself, we've been involved with one or two arts council. Like you, David, we've been involved with one or two arts council meetings.
Yeah.
Looking at developing art in the Fens. And it hasn't been easy to engage with an audience. I don't know why. I'm hoping a podcast such as this will sort of make us seem a little bit more approachable.
I do.
We are approachable.
I completely agree. That I've been involved in several projects, either indirectly or directly, and certainly Fenland does bring its own unique challenges when it comes to art projects in all forms as well, whether it's written literature, music, festivals, performance art. Everyone, there seems to be a lack of engagement with it. So maybe now is a good time to get people involved and get them to focus on art, because that it is an ideal time to do that, to sort of start
Absolutely.
exploring. Okay, so how, if someone was to go into art now, so we've got 12 weeks or 15 weeks or whatever, and they decide that they want to keep themselves busy, so one way would be to switch off the TV and the laptop and get away from it all, and they wanted to do some art, how would they go about it, and what sort of art styles are there, sort of generically, what sort of styles are there that they can be involved with, and sort of how would they go about it, how would they get hold of the equipment and stuff in this new world of shopping?
Well, I would say relatively simple. I mean, I would start personally, in fact most of my drawings start this way, or most of my artwork starts this way, with a simple piece of paper and a pencil. I think it's a good way to get ideas down. Mm-hmm. But art materials don't have to cost an awful lot of money. I mean, when you start going around art shops and even looking at art materials online, you can see that you can spend an awful lot of money on art materials, but it doesn't have to cost that much.
Okay.
But there are some quick guidelines that maybe I can help with. Like I say, if depending on what you're doing, when you're at the very early stage, and what you want to do is get some ideas down on paper, there's a lot to be said for, and this is how I start. I would say about 90% of my artwork starts on photocopy paper. Mm-hmm. You can buy a ream of it for about £3, £4. I would go better than your bog standard pencil. You can start with an HB pencil, but I personally like a softer lead, and I'd be looking at something like 2B or 4B soft lead. Mm-hmm. For a pencil. If you were to Google that, or even go on somewhere like Amazon, I mean, at the moment with you can't go round an art shop and go and browse, but there are several art shops online that you can go and have a look at. You can also get materials delivered fairly cheaply from Amazon. Okay. I hate to give them the plug, but there are places like Amazon. There's also a lot of information on. I'm a member of a thing called the Society of All Artists, and I'm a professional member, but you can join as an amateur member. Okay. And there's all sorts of discounts and bits and pieces that you can get from them. And there's also tips, advice, and they also do videos and things. There's some free stuff on their website. So if you were to Google SAA, you should find them. But if you look on places like Amazon, though other online retailers are available, look for a reasonable pencil. Makes wise, I would go Faber-Castell rather than Derwent. The lead seem more durable to me. Okay. I have had problems with Derwent pencils. So start with a pencil and a piece of paper. Once you get into painting, an awful lot of people go straight into watercolours. That would seem to be their default setting, to go into watercolours, which you can do. I'm not knocking that. I would go for reasonable tip materials, something like Winsor & Newton materials. You can go cheaper, but with Winsor & Newton, you get a very consistent paint. Okay. And I like consistency. I like to know what materials I'm working with. You can work with cheaper materials, but I think they're good value for money wise, especially when you go into things like acrylic paint or even oil paint. You get cheap oil paint and cheap acrylic paint, but what you're really doing is getting more medium and water in the tube than you are actual pigment. You're better off buying a better quality. It's thicker. It covers better.
What about paper then? Do you need sort of a specialist paper if you're going to start
What?
doing into the watercolors
Yeah,
and oils?
yeah, very much so. I mean, papers. I mean, there are all sorts. I mean, there are literally reams and reams of paper that you can experiment with. If you're doing either watercolor or acrylic on canvas, I would start with about 300 gram paper. I wouldn't try and paint on anything less than 300 gram paper.
Okay.
Because it suffers with something that they call cockling. The paper, when wet, it sort of kind of buckles up.
Yes, I've seen that. I think most people have when they've spilt the coffee over the bills in the morning, and they get that sort of ripply effect. And
absolutely. And if you're trying to paint on a surface like that, it is very difficult.
Yeah.
If this work that I'm doing in a professional way, you can get up to 300 pound paper or 400 pound paper, which is like a kind of a thick cardboard that is absolutely beautiful to paint on, and there's no buckling of the paper at all.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Or indeed, you can work on canvas.
Oh, the framed ones with sort of stretched.
Yeah, stretched canvases. If you're doing either oils or acrylic painting, I've even done watercolors actually on stretched canvas, which you can get some really nice effects from.
So, because they're quite cheap, aren't they, the canvases?
Yeah.
So they're quite affordable. So you can budget for, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can actually get quite a lot for your money.
Yeah, most certainly. And I'd suggest getting a few really good paints than a lot of very cheap paints.
Okay, go for smaller quality than.
Yeah. Go for quality rather than quantity.
Okay.
Because once you've got a reasonable starter set of watercolors or acrylics or oils, you can then buy tubes of a particular colour. But with a basic set, you can, generally speaking, mix all the colours that you're going to want.
Okay, that's really good. I mean, that's quite useful. I mean, I've learned something from it, and I did art at school, and I've done bits and pieces over the years. But yeah, that was quite useful.
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you for your time. Much appreciated giving up your morning just to.
No. Very happy to, David. Very happy to.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure we will depend on the audience interest and feedback. We may end up coming back to you, and it'd be nice to sort of get to see some photos of the studios and some of the artwork that you do as well. So,
very happy to.
We will be probably in touch again sometime.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Rick.
Thank you.
Richard Savage. And you can find more information online if you want to go and have a look at some of his work. Just point out that some of it is not always suitable for children, but that's like any artist that you will get. You'll get different classifications. You'll find stuff that is mainstream, and you'll find something that's for a more
adult audience.
More adult audience. So, but that's the nature of art. It covers so many different so many topics. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll let you get on.
All right, thank you, David. Have a brilliant day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, that was the interview with Rick. I think that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I did a bit of art at school, but I learnt lots from that. I thought there was some quite useful hints and tips there as well. So, yes, if you have any questions, if you have any if you want any more information on doing some kind of artwork, and that wasn't covered in that video, that interview, then drop us a line, ask us some questions, and we'll pass them on and hopefully do a Q&A with Rick at some point in the next upcoming weeks. He's quite happy to do more information, and possibly even do live demonstrations in future weeks. Fenland Doctors, certainly for Chatteris, if you go onto their Facebook and website and have a look, they have a comprehensive list now of what to do, where to go, who to contact, why you should attend, why you shouldn't attend. If you have pre-existing needs from the doctors, whether you have appointments or regular appointments and things. If you go onto their site and have a look, it's quite very, very comprehensive about what's broken down and what they can offer and when to and who to contact, and the process of doing that. So definitely go on there. Is there anything with you, Amanda? Any information?
Yes, we have similar with the Fenland practices. It's best to check Dr. Hamlin's Facebook page. He's got one that is FPG, Fenland Practice Group. But if you contact us, we can give you the link for it. People are being encouraged to give up smoking if they can, because apparently smokers are more susceptible to the virus than non-smokers. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to say give up smoking, but try if you can. I can imagine that with anxieties the way they are for a smoker, it might be very easy to grab a cigarette. There are suggestions that vaping's safer, and there's lots of vape shops around. The most important thing is doing your best to stay alive, isn't it, really?
Well, yes, you've got the issue with, well, even if you do get coronavirus, it's specifically just targeting the lungs. What I'm saying, it's just specific. The most of it has the biggest impact is on your lungs and the restrictions of breathing. So yeah. If you are smoking, then that can obviously complicate things even further. So now would be a good idea to have a think about it.
Have a think about it. That's a good way of putting it, because it can be difficult. There's a whole industry around giving up smoking, isn't there?
Yeah.
So nobody's suggesting it's easy.
Yeah, so I can imagine it's a difficult time, a lot of anxiety. So I can imagine it can be difficult at times like this to give up smoking if you are thinking about it. There are lots of support groups and people you can talk to, and lots of advice on NHS on how to go about giving up smoking. But if you need a reason, now would be a good time to think about it. Okay, next thing is post offices. There's obviously they are still open, they are still serving, but there have been quite a few changes, and recently, certainly with Chatteris Post Office, as of today, they've now gone from opening full time to opening 9 o'clock till 1 p.m. From 9 till 1, Mondays to Fridays, and on Saturdays 9:30 till 12:30, and that's for the foreseeable future. What about you, Amanda? Have you got changes for you?
We have got changes to the times that the village stores are open in Wimbledon and Doddington, and they hold the post offices.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yes, so Wimbledon is Monday to Saturday 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Sunday 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and they ask for only 2 people to be in the shop at one time. They tend to run the post office throughout the hours that they're open, whereas Doddington doesn't, and Doddington's hours are the same as Wimbledon's, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and Sunday 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. But we'll find out what time the post office itself is operating in Doddington. I know they never have opened the post office at the weekend there, so no weekend post office in Doddington. But I'm unsure of the hours at this time.
I mean, that's something that has changed. I mean, I looked at the page from the National Post Office site for the shops, and they're obviously saying open normal hours. But this is a case of now going and finding out local information, going directly to the local shops, either through the Facebook, through the community community links, because they are putting their information, the changes of times and things on there as well, and that's more. That's the more accurate information. It's not being fully reflected through the overarching post office sites. I went into the post office on Saturday in Chatteris, and they had a clear lane that was designated for customers for the actual post office counter, and they had clear divisions over, to keep your 2 meter difference. So there's a lot of implementation of that in the area. So follow the guidelines, keep safe, keep everyone else safe. Now, something else going on from shops and post office, we've got markets. Something that's caused a bit of controversy, a bit of confusion in the Fenland area, is whether markets should be shut or kept open. This is an interesting one. I can understand the reasons for closing. Ely has decided to close their market. Wisbech has got theirs open, and some of the other towns are still open as well. Now, I can understand, as long as they're being run properly and they've got lots of space between each stalls and people are keeping distance. It's outdoors, it's fresh air. It's also taking some of the pressure off the supermarkets as well. So you can go in and just get your fresh veg and meat and stuff without having to go out. Because I can ensure that lots of people have got supermarket anxiety, which is quite a big thing at the moment. Having seen all the negative press about what's going on in supermarkets, I think at the moment local marketplaces have got a new role in this society. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think there's a need for them to be in the fresh air. People are concerned, and also if the market stalls are open, they're helping keep the economy going too. I think where we can, we need to have these things. We've really got to watch the economy and make sure that we can keep going as a country, and it's one less burden on the country as well. All the various payouts that will have to be made by the government eventually.
Yeah.
If people can stay and work and work safely and not harm anybody else, and it helps with anxiety and mental health issues, then I'm all for keeping them open.
It is a contentious issue, but I think if it's done properly, done sensibly, and people obey all the social etiquette that's out now, I think there's no reason why it shouldn't. I think it does have an important role within the community, and it like I say, it helps people just get out. We'll follow the guidelines as laid out by the government, but at the moment I think it does have a place as long as everyone is sensible in how they use it.
Yes, I agree with you.
But yes, if you have any views on markets and whether they should be open, or any suggestions on how to improve it, then yeah, drop us a line and we'll pass that on. Carrying on with the theme of shops, we have an article that Fenland Citizen is running, and it's showing all the supermarkets in the area. The supermarkets they've listed what their protocols are for how they're expected customers to behave, and if you go onto the Fenland Citizen's website, you'll see the article, and we'll stick a link on that at the bottom. But it's quite a comprehensive view of to which supermarkets are open and what they're doing about it. So have a look at there for more information. So we've got some other information regarding the police. Over to you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, David. There's been a surge in calls to the police, especially on their 101 number, the non-urgent call line. But they're receiving calls about confusion in regards to COVID-19. So people are asking questions like, can we go out and feed horses, or are we allowed to go fishing? That information can be found elsewhere. Please do not block the police telephone line with those kind of inquiries. And if you don't know where to look, please get in touch and we will send you the link. Thanks, David.
I mean, I know that there are a couple of Facebook COVID support groups as well. I think
there are.
There's a March one that's been set up. I don't know if there's one in Chatteris, but there are some local ones that have been set up for people to find out information of how to cope with the situation on the restrictions. So that would be worth having a look as well, and maybe asking them the questions, because they're not priority or life impacting questions. You know, if it's not affecting someone's life, if it's not a serious emergency, then there are other places that you can go, and these would be some of them.
So, David, this week was a particularly strange week. This Sunday, yesterday, was a strange day for Christians right across the country, because they weren't allowed to go to church. All the church buildings have been shut.
No, of course, yes.
Yes, and this is Holy Week we're in, so again, it's a difficult time. Friday will be Good Friday, Sunday will be Easter Day. So I myself logged into the Church of England's Facebook page and watched the Archbishop of York and his wife deliver a service. It was really great, actually. It was very, very, very good. It wasn't too long. It's important. This is the most important week in the Christian calendar. Not Christmas, Easter. Easter is the most important week. So it's going to be tough for people of faith, and I would highly recommend logging into those live streams. It's very nice to do, and they went from 9 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I should think it will be the same thing again. Also, the rainbows that have been up in people's windows, for the children to chase the rainbows and to let people know they want them to stay safe.
Yeah.
The idea now is to change the rainbows to Easter eggs, drawings of Easter eggs, so that children can go on an Easter egg hunt of a different kind. That's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. That's good. It's different. I suppose just keeping a theme. So what would normally happen, I suppose you've got that, and you've got different saints' days as well. So you've got different themes that you could put dragons maybe in the windows for St. George's Day, or so. I suppose
like that.
So you could keep a theme for each week, or each couple of weeks for a different event or a different national event.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So St. George's Day is April, isn't it? The end of it.
Yes.
Towards the end of April.
Yes, it is. Yeah, is it 23rd off the top of my head?
23rd or 24th?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's one of them. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yes, because we could be in lockdown longer than we think, couldn't we?
Yeah, I think
this is the truth.
I think to be realistic, I think it's going to be a while. I mean, while the numbers are still going up, we can see that it's going to be a while. It's only when it starts to slow down, then at least we can then get an idea of how long it's going to be. So yeah, I think we're because it's still increasing exponentially. It's I don't think this is going to end for a while.
No. So that means we get to do more podcasts then, David.
Yay!
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun, and it's good getting to know more about Doris.
Boris and Doris.
Boris and Doris, yes. Oh,
we could do a Boris and Doris show.
The Boris and Doris show, yeah. Oh dear, poor old Boris.
But that's it. I mean, we've got listeners. We've got many weeks and many shows to do, and obviously we don't have roving reporters. We can't go out and we can't do things, so we're kind of at the mercy of the audience to some respect for ideas and suggestions. You know, so weird and wacky, wonderful, even just generic everyday stuff. If it's something that is important or you need to know, you're desperate to know, and you know that no one else is going to give you the answer, give us a call, drop us a line, tweet us, message us, email us, whatever's out there.
Oh, David, guess what I did this morning?
What did you do?
This was following our last podcast.
Yeah.
I tuned in to Mr. Motivator and I did the workout with him.
Yay! So, the biggest question was, what was he wearing?
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Because he was quite renowned for his flamboyant spandex outfits, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was wearing spandex, and he had got leg warmers on as well. Looked very Fame. He could have been in Fame.
It could have been. So was this on television, or was this a YouTube channel, or?
It was his. Well, I saw him first of all on the TV, and then I thought I'd look at his YouTube channel. So that, yes, both, a combination of.
So is that like this morning?
It was on Victoria Derbyshire. He was on Victoria Derbyshire.
Okay.
This morning, yes.
So if people want to get involved, then they can watch that, or they can find his YouTube channel.
Yes, absolutely. But I find him, a bit more funky than the Green Goddess.
That's the thing. I talking of which, I saw that Joe Wicks has fractured his hand.
No, poor Joe.
So, but he is carrying on. He's carrying on. So don't panic there. He's not going to stop. But also, I think it's going to restrict on what he can do. But I also heard that he's giving a lot of his money that he's raising to COVID-19 charities.
Oh, he's a good man.
He is. He's a wonderful man, and there needs to be more people like him.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we're coming. We're talking. Boris was talking yesterday about the big community stepping up, and the community is there. People are helping. Is only a minority who are just being difficult for the sake of being difficult, but there is definitely a community out there, and people do care and they do want to look after each other.
Yes, definitely.
Something that's obviously quite important is social grooming, and that is something that has been raised awareness with obviously restrictions in home visits from hairdressers, and some people have to have their weekly cut, and it can be really difficult at this time now, because obviously if you are vulnerable or having to isolate, then that's kind of out the picture. Amanda's got some advice. What have you got for us?
Well, I haven't got any advice.
Oh dear.
David.
Okay.
It's not advice. I am actually devastated. I cannot go and have my roots done.
Oh dear.
I think it's I think it's the end of the world, and I would like to know what I can do about it. Really, I'm asking the question. My hair is ready for a cut. So this is, worrying times for me. I cannot, and I'm not the only one. I know I am not the only one. Can't go out, get my hair done, cannot get my roots done. My ears are blocked, can't get them shringed. And my eyes have failed, so I need a new prescription. I cannot go and get my eyes tested. It's the end of the world, David.
Well, have you thought about asking your husband to cut your hair for you?
No, absolutely not. No, that would not happen.
I think I think that's something that's going to appear. There's going to be a lot of partners that are asked to take on grooming techniques that they haven't done before, and yes. I think hairdressing might be one. I think there's going to be a lot of blokes suddenly having to do a lot of hair makeup and other techniques. all these new skill sets they're going to learn.
Yes. I've just got the basin cut in my head. Do you remember that from school days? Some poor children, used to have a basin put on their head, and their mums used to cut around the basin.
Yes. The bowl cut.
But yes, that's it, the bowl cut. But actually, Craig and I, this is interesting. Both of our mothers were trained hairstylists. They were both hairdressers. We know not to touch each other's hair because that's what we grew up with. You leave it to me.
Well, maybe there's a need for a change then. Maybe we need to change, to take on these new challenges.
Yes, absolutely.
See,
that would be a good new hobby.
I'm okay because I just have a shaver, and just sort of quick zip over the top, and I'm done.
Yeah, well, you know, and some people are very good at that and have a steady hand.
Well, whatever you do, I mean, if it all goes wrong, you know, you've got a few weeks to grow it back out anyway.
That is a good point. We have got a shaver at home, but that is not happening.
Something that in the last episode, we were talking about digging for victory and how a lot of people are now having to, or getting the idea of converting their gardens to growing vegetables, root crops and things, because obviously now is the right time to start. And I jokingly said that I'd got artificial grass, and had a few people mention that maybe it's worth having pots, and that is quite a sensible suggestion, either indoors or outdoors. I'm sure there's a few more better people to comment on gardening techniques than me, but I do know that obviously makeshift greenhouses and covered areas and using pots and plants. So if you've got a small garden, or if you haven't got anywhere that you can actually dig up, you've got the option to make planters and things and turn them over to vegetables, and something that's good for encouraging the kids as well, get them involved with growing plants and getting the chance to actually see vegetables growing.
I think that's a great idea, David. And I have got a question of you.
Okay.
Your AstroTurf that's down in your garden, did you put it down yourself, or was it already there when you moved?
We put it down.
Did you? Was it as a labour saving idea?
It is. The problem is the size of the grass is small, so it's actually very uneconomical to actually cut it, because you actually spend more time taking the lawnmower out of the shed, plugging it in,
yes,
and turning it on, by which time you've gone zip, 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 and that's it, done. And
yeah,
it came about when the green bins, we then had to pay to have the green bins collections, and we couldn't justify the 2 bags of grass cuttings to pay for the bin collection for green waste, and then at the end of the day we just decided it's going to be far easier just to go to artificial grass. And to be honest, it's I was quite skeptical, to be honest. I did not think, I mean, the idea of having AstroTurf or a football pitch in your garden wasn't that appealing, but it's actually really nice, and it's quite mixed in its colours, you know, so it's not just all green.
Right.
They've actually sort of textured the grass, and it's at different lengths, and once you've actually got it starts to fade slightly, and you've got dust and things on it, and you've got dead leaves on it, and to be honest, you then can't tell the difference. And quite
That's
often we have people come in and they don't notice the difference until they actually stand on. The only thing that I do find is during the summer, and you can burn your feet because it gets very, very hot from the sun, and that's just something just to be aware of, that it can hold the heat, you know, if the sun is really I mean, we're talking about, you know, when it's like the heat wave that we had last year, and when it was in the 30s, and the grass gets very, very hot, and that's just something just to be aware of, that you don't just go out in your bare feet and in the middle of summer. But to be honest, other than that, no, it's fine. It's been quite labour saving.
That sounds really good, and always tidy.
And it's always tidy as well. You never have to, because it doesn't encroach into the flower beds.
No, that's good.
Lastly, I think the last element we have is Cambridgeshire County Council. They're looking for some volunteers. Amanda.
Yes, Cambridgeshire County Council have put a call out for volunteers, and they would like the volunteers to have a caring background, if at all possible. And if you would like to get in touch, please contact us, and we'll give you the link to contact them.
And I hope people do. There's lots of people who've got the time, and if they've got the opportunity to volunteer their time to help others if they can, that would be brilliant. And that sort of keeps in ties in with the theme of what we're trying to do at the moment anyway. So
yes, it is, isn't it?
Right, well, I think that's us coming to the end of our hour. It's been quite a fast hour. There's lots of information, lots going on. If you know people that would benefit from listening to this, share it. Let people know it's on. The one thing we found last week is that we're not going to hit the deadlines for time, so it's going to be very difficult to actually say it's going to be released at this time. I don't think that's too ambitious to carry on doing that, but it will certainly be done on the day that it's recorded. So we'll still have one released on the Monday, on the Wednesday, and on the Friday. It's just we can't now say exactly what time, so it'll just drop into the Facebook or whichever posts that are we're going to post it on. Specifically Wimbling to start with, but we'll be looking at spreading it out through Fenland, because there's a lot of information. I mean, we've got stuff on here it's basically from Wisbech to Chatteris, so we will basically make it open to everyone who's in the area. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a brilliant idea.
Excellent. I concur to you. So, do you have any last words?
No, apart from please be safe, wash your hands every 2 hours, we were advised today, which I found quite surprising. Everybody please stay safe, stay indoors if you can, only go out for essential items or to work if you have to, and wash your hands every 2 hours is the advice that we're being given.
Okay, thank you very much. From me, it basically just drop us a line, let us know what you think. Drop us a line if you've got any ideas or suggestions, if you want to be on the show, if you've got something you want to share, if you've got questions, or if you want to be interviewed. We'll put you down on a list of future episodes. We've got a few people already lined up in the future, so like, share, subscribe wherever possible. Pass it on to people that you know might benefit. Just drop us a line, just let us know how we're getting on, and just share us any information. So that is it for us. That is the hour up. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for what you've already told us so far. Next show will be on Wednesday, all things permitting. So that is it for us. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Goodbye.